This is the European edition of Breaking Banks, the world's #1 fintech podcast and radio show. We bring you the European unicorns, startups, founders, regulators, and leaders innovating the rapidly evolving fintech scene today. A truly localized podcast with both English and local language content, with some of the world's most well-known hosts and influencers in the fintech sector globally. Join us every week as we explore what makes the European Union a phenomenal proving ground for many of the fastest growing fintech plays in the world today. Okay, let's roll.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Breaking Banks Europe. I'm Francesca Liverti, and I will be your host for today in one of our most popular formats, which is the Ecosystem Zoom In series. And this time, we will focus to a very interesting country, which is Romania. And we will see how the country is boosting innovation and allows startups, and especially, of course, fintech startups, to grow in the ecosystem. So before introducing our two guests, which I'm very happy to have with us today, I'd like to share with you some interesting facts I found out while researching about Romania. Because I have to say, honestly, I didn't know that much about the ecosystem. It's probably one of the countries that it's not usually under the radar of when talking about innovation and fintech. But I actually discovered quite some nice stuff. So, for example, I completely didn't know that Romania is the second largest market for Revolut, for example, with 2.5 million customers, which is quite impressive, and I think tells a lot about the rising of digital adoption in the country. Plus, I found out there is quite a high level of tech talent present in the country, and nowadays there is literally every company that I know that is looking for tech talent. So I think it's quite a plus. But let's try to double click on these things together with our two guests. We have the pleasure to have with us Ioana Guiman, managing partner of Allevo. Welcome, Ioana, and thanks a lot for joining us.
Hi, very happy to be here.
And our second guest is Bogdan Stefan, IT Solution and Software Development Director at eximbank, and also Innovation Advisor at innovx. Hello, Bogdan, and welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here to share, let's say, some things from Romania startup ecosystem and also fintech ecosystem, of course.
Great. So, guys, let's start from the very basics. Could you please firstly introduce yourself to the audience? So tell us who you are, what you're doing, what's your role in your company, and so on. Ioana, you go first.
I go first. Thank you. So I am with Allevo. We are a company that does financial software for banks, mainly for banks, financial institutions, SMEs, corporates. We are here. We are around for more than 20 years. It's actually almost 25 years since we are serving the market, based in Bucharest, in Romania, and my role is a little bit of everything, since I am one of the main shareholders of the company. And you know how every entrepreneur is their own CFO and HR human resources manager, and then tax advisor and all that. So I do think that it's very important to understand your own company and be very much involved in everything that happens with the team and on the customer side.
Yeah, your day is usually 48 hours, basically.
Well, something like that. Yeah.
Thank you, Ioana. Bogdan, your turn.
From my side, I will say at the time in financial services for almost 20 something years. So I know a little bit about banking and about other connect industries around the financial sector. Also being pleased to be involved starting in 2019 in the innovx Accelerator, which is a business accelerator, starting as a fintech, let's say, advisor, but not just in fintech involved, but also in other projects regarding technology and also modeling the business. So I'm not involved just in technology, but also in business model and refine the business model or reshape the business model to evolve and grow faster. So I'm here with two heads. One of the head is, let's say, with a bank, with a well-established bank, but on the other hand, I also involved in the innovation, and I'm very pleased to be around the innovation, also innovation in Romania, but also in Eastern Europe, because I have the opportunity to apply some of the things that together with growth in Romania to my other head, which is the banking head.
Nice. So I think we have we can have quite a good overview, because you both cover a lot of different sides of the ecosystem. So that's really great. So as I was mentioning before, probably, and I'm sorry to say that, but I'm sure that you will understand. The majority of our listeners don't really know about Romania, because probably it's a country that it's not really under the radar of people. Normally, we always talk about big ecosystems like London and so on. But let's start together understanding how the ecosystem is right now, and perhaps how it evolved during the years. So how would you define the current situation of startups, but specifically fintech startups right now in Romania?
So the startup ecosystem is quite young, I would say, but there are a number of companies that are trying to best define their business model and define their business and create a business and then succeed. Of course, only one in more than 10 businesses get to succeed, and that's why, as you said, not many have heard of this ecosystem or know much about it. But what's helping, I think, is that several boot camps or accelerators or these types of places where these entrepreneurs can meet with potential investors and advisors to be schooled, and also to have access to not only to mentorship but to potential money is very, very useful. And this has started to happen, I would say, over the past 5 years maybe. And it's starting to move. Of course, if you want to compare to the likes of London and New York and Singapore and Silicon Valley, it's a whole different story. But I think people are looking at the models of these cities and are trying to replicate as much as possible. I think for entrepreneurs here, money is very, very scarce. We did have access to something that is very cool in Europe, to grants. And if you have a very good project in mind that has a chance to succeed, you can then apply and get some money that you do not need then to return to an investor. And that is a very cool funnel for building your project and getting those customers and starting a real business. But lately, with the pandemics and all that, I think financing has been a bit lower than before, and money is a bit more scarce, I would say, from our perspective at the very least.
Of course. And from an Allevo perspective, you are a Romanian company built up in Romania. So you think you got advantages, or thinking back, you're like, okay, if I was building up somewhere else, it would have been more smooth?
Well, it depends. I mean, we're not a very typical company. I mean, we are in the market for a very, very long time, but we still are 100% privately owned company. Most such companies have sold at least part of their shares to, I don't know, bigger groups to get access to other markets and to other customers. I think this is one of the barriers that we see, is that we have a very good reputation in the local market, in Romania, in Moldova, with our customers. We do have very long-standing relationships with our customers. Most of the biggest banks here are already our customers. We did projects like the automation of the instant payments flow, for example. Projects like the automation of the most usual financial flows of banks. And then if you talk about connectivity to SWIFT and the processing of all that message pack, now with the migration to the XML, finally, to the XML structured format, connectivity to the target, to services and all that. So this is something that we have been doing, and we are getting better and better at it, and servicing our customers, helping them on the compliance side of things, helping them in the payments operations area, and this side of the business. But for us, it's difficult to grow more in the absence of a customer. So what I find difficult is to start a very innovative project that I have this very wonderful idea. This is a problem. I want this we can solve this. If you don't get access to money, it's very difficult to get to implement it without a customer.
Yeah, makes sense.
So basically, our strategy is to find a customer and do a project together, and then try.
Yeah, sort of industry partner or something like that. Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, so let's maybe double click on this, Bogdan, because of course, when I think about a successful ecosystem, you always think about the access to capital, as Ioana was saying. So how would you define, you have, of course, the double up, as you said before. So how would you define the VC, angel, accelerator, and so on ecosystem in Romania?
I have a different opinion than Ioana, so I'm quite sure that...
that's great, even better.
This is something different, because what I have seen in the past 6 years, and also it's a Romanian venture capital report, I think, which is from 2022, I believe, so very close to this date, is actually that Romanian startups have registered 12x increase in the investment in the last 6 years. So actually, the investments have been increased in the past years. And also, let's not forget that actually Romania right now is sitting on the 5th place in investments in the startups after Estonia, which is the number one. Also for me, it was a surprise. I did a research back 2 years ago, and I find out that actually Estonia is, for quite a while, is the number one in investment in the startups ecosystem. And I have to say that we maybe should find out how they are doing this and how they are attracting those money, being the first in Eastern Europe, and also behind Poland, which is much greater in terms of number of people within the country. But like you have said, actually, what I think it's very interesting here is not just the ecosystem, but also the people which are involved in this type of projects. And have to say that there are a lot of people which are very technical, and we know that Romania has the percentage of tech savvy much bigger in Eastern Europe than the other country. Of course, if you are considering the number of people living in Romania, because we are decreasing each and every year. But the number of tech savvy, actually, it's increasing. And like you have said, the ecosystem is clearly on the right trend because of those tech-savvy people. And that's why I think Revolut has is a big player here, and having 2.5 million customers here, it's very great. And actually, it's showing that Romania has potential in terms of fintechs and startups which are considering to come to Romania.
Yeah, it was a thing that surprised me in a positive way, because I always think that the innovation needs to be connected with the people, how the people are reacting to that. So, for example, I was living for a lot of times in the Netherlands, and over there, which is almost a cashless society, every innovation, especially connecting with the digital payments and so on, it's very easy accepted by the population. While I'm Italian, so in other countries like Italy, it's much, much more difficult. So, for example, just a couple of months ago, we have to pay by card the taxi, but believe me, it's a continuous struggle, because there's no taxi driver that wants to be paid with a credit card. And when I see that in Romania, this percentage of people using a tool like Revolut, but I'm sure also other tools, is increasing. It's very surprising and interesting for me, because it means that there is a fertile ground for innovation. So, do you think that the population can be a driver in this sense?
Oh, definitely. And I think you did mention Revolut, and it did have great success. I think for a number of reasons. For example, they came to the market where they did offer something a bit better than banks on the exchange rate. We do still use local currency in Romania. So if you would want to pay euros in a different country, or to buy something or whatever, it would be slightly cheaper to top up your Revolut card and then make the purchase using your Revolut card. And they did attract a number of people. Then there was the transfer between friends, and they were just a bit before banks enabled this very fast transfer between friends and split the bill and all these things. Plus the number of expats that are working abroad and need to use very easy to access means of sending money back home, travel and all that. But Revolut did speculate the opportunity at, I would say, the right time, and they did succeed. Another story was that of M-Pesa, which was a huge success in Uganda, in Kenya, in countries where it was deployed, right? It was very recently, a number of years ago, replicated here, and it was an epic failure,
Seriously? I completely didn't know about that.
It was interesting. They said, okay, this was a huge success. Let's bank the unbanked, right? Everybody wants to reach those people that maybe do have a credit card where they get paid from their work, but the minute they get paid, they run to the ATM and pull the money out and turn it to cash. So M-Pesa was a good idea in remote areas. There are a lot of villages spread across the mountains and all that. In Romania is a very big rural society as well. And it didn't really work. I don't know if it was awareness or improper education of giving a tool that was not easy enough to use or accessible enough to the target people, but it didn't really work. And I think we can find several stories of this kind. Definitely Romania is a place of opportunity, because many people still are quite unbanked, and cash can be pulled out even more. And I hope that very soon we will get to live in this place where you can travel just having your phone around anywhere.
Yeah, but we everybody in something like that. Let's see. And Bogdan, what's your opinion on this?
I think if you're looking about the society, it's true that it's very rural, but even in rural areas, we have the access of the internet and so on and so forth. So I think from this perspective, we are not, let's say, using the financial services in the rural area, but we can have it. So the opportunity is there, of course. If you are looking about the consumer habits and also the statistics having in the consumers' habits, we can see that actually the increase in card payments and in other type of payments regarding in the last years, but also what is very strange that in the pandemic era, we can see that actually an increase in using the cash in transaction, which was very strange. This statistic was in 2021, I think, and for me, it's going to it's not following the trend that we are having right now in digitalization and working with card payments or PSD2 type of payments and so on and so forth. So it's we have ups and downs in the same time, but of course, if we are considering the education, the financial education, I think we can see in the last years a lot of effort from the banking sector to address this type of education in a lot of areas, considering also loan, using the card, and so on and so forth. So I think we are on the right track.
Great, and we are going to deep dive a little bit more into how Romanian banks are doing. But before, we are going for a very short break to hear from our sponsors, and we will be back in a minute.
Do you want to be part of Breaking Banks Europe? Reach out and learn more about the opportunity to be featured in one of our shows. With over 1.6 million listeners and counting, Breaking Banks Europe is bound to become the place to advance critical dialogue in Europe and the UK fintech scene. Reach out on Instagram or Twitter at breakingbanks.eu or go to www.provoke.fm.
And we are back together with our two guests talking about the Romanian ecosystem. And we just left before the break talking with Bogdan. He was mentioning how the banks are actually looking into the innovation, especially connected with the behavior of the consumers. And I would like then to deep dive a little bit more into this, because as I remind to everybody, Bogdan wears two hats, so he's also a banking guy. How do you think so the incumbents are gearing up? Are there any relevant stories worth mentioning, you think?
I think somehow in Romania, it's worth mentioning that actually the financial sector and the banking industry is shaping, let's say, the way of thinking and the way how they are structuring the deals with the customer. And when I'm thinking about the retail, because when you are seeking the information, you can tell about the retail banking and not the corporate banking. In the corporate banking, there are other type of speeds in terms of development and closing the deals and so on and so forth. So basically, in retail, we can see that actually a lot of activity has put from the bank in the online, and the way that we are considering that the bank and the customers should interact have been changed in the last 2 to 3 years, also accelerating by the pandemic, I have to say. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, I have to say that actually National Bank of Romania has been made a step in that direction, making a fintech innovation hub, also to keep the legislation up to date in terms of with this type of innovation. Here, I have to admit that actually the fintech and the startups didn't push a lot of modification in this forum, in this hub that the national bank has been made. And we are lag behind in terms of some regulation that are still present in our country, and I think this is a pity because the innovation should be hand in hand with legislation.
Yeah,
to be
definitely.
not yes to be not to be let's say on the same track with the regulators. Otherwise, you might face the situation that what you are doing is considering not right, and maybe some fines may appear, or other type of sanction from the regulators.
So do you have the feeling that the regulators are not completely supporting the innovation process?
I think it's not the openness of the national bank, but actually I think fintech should push more on that direction and be much more present with requests in this fintech innovation hub that national bank has been developing in the past years, because otherwise they will not understand. So basically, it's something that should be done differently. Fintech should educate, let's say, the regulators, what they are doing, how they are doing, and how the regulators should consider their type of transaction, of the activities that they are doing.
Yeah, so helping them understanding what the fintech needs, let's say.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. So, Ioana, what's your point of view on these two things? So I would like you to double click both on the relationship with the incumbents, so the banks that I was asking at the beginning, and also then with the regulator side.
I think it's what Bogdan said. There is a slight lack of sync between all these types of institutions, the fintech ecosystem, the banks, and the regulator. It's been made very obvious when more complex projects arrived, where opportunities were obvious, let's say, to the fintechs, were made obvious to the banks, but were not that easy to implement because of the lack of legislation or many other things, as Bogdan mentioned. I mean, with open banking and this data privacy regulation that were so big and so talked about, everybody kind of started to understand after a while what they meant and what doors they would open. Open banking was something that required a great investment on the side of the banks, and banks have spent a lot of time, resources, and effort to implement projects that would allow them to open their APIs to fintechs. And then, what do you know, there were not that many fintechs registered with the national bank. You would ask why. Were they not interested? Were the APIs, you cannot read the APIs? Oh, wait, the APIs are proprietary format, and every bank opened different looking APIs, and you would have to make an integration with each and every bank on the market. And then what were you able to do with the APIs? Oh, wait, you cannot access things like this, and this, and this. Oh, wait, the fintech is not been authorized by the National Bank to operate in Romania, although Romania is part of the European Union, and other such things that were, there are things that can be solved, but they move very, very slowly. So open banking was something that became a framework available out there, but not that used from this bank fintech collaboration perspective that would be turned into a major feature to people, I would think.
So if I understood correctly, what you both think is missing, it's kind of a homogeneous link in between all the stakeholders. Like they don't really talk with each other in a 100% way.
or it's not very obvious what should be done to make it easier. I mean, they do talk. I mean, you have people available at the National Bank even who you can talk to. But the thing is, as Bogdan was trying to explain, that someone has to make some very specific requests. We need this to happen.
Yeah, makes sense. And changing slightly a topic, but I really want to tackle this before we end out of time. At the very beginning, I was mentioning the importance of tech talent, especially in Romania, because what I've read is that you have really a high percentage of tech talent in the country. And considering that there is an incredible high demand of this type of talent, and there is a quite scarcity of well-trained one, this I think could really be a plus. And I would like you both to give me your opinion around this, because of course we see that even when there is talent, there is such a high cost that it's really difficult for a startup to compete with companies like Google and so on. So I see a lot of companies going to look for talent in the Eastern Europe countries. What's your experience with that? And do you think that Romania can actually play a good role in this?
Ioana, you can start on this because
I can start.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
I was about to say something a bit surprising, although the Romania is very famous for this large pool of tech talent. I feel that tech talent is still scarce and it's still missing, because we are looking for tech talent on a permanent basis. So we are a software company, right? We're about 32 people in our company. And it's still difficult to find people who also fit your team, because it's very important to have the right synergy between your team members, right? And then you are looking for a number of competence, and it's not very easy to find, because Romania has been on the radar of very large corporates that have opened offices locally, or that rent resources. Many companies that rent people have opened locally for this reason, and the demand is so high that it's still very difficult to find people, I think, especially when you are looking for a very particular type of resource. For example, you would like to hire this software architect that is very skilled in certain types of systems or operating systems and database, more than just a simple computer scientist or a programmer, right? It becomes not very easy to find these types of people. And I do know that it's worse in other countries or other places. One of the advantages and reasons why people are looking for talent here is that English is quite well spread, and I think almost everybody speaks it to a very certain level. So it's easy to integrate someone in a more global team.
Yeah. So you are breaking my myth, Ioana. So I cannot advise my client to come and find data scientists and so on in Romania.
No, you could, but it's not very easy, and because of this high demand, as of late, it's not even that cheap. Because back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was way more. It made a lot more sense to go look for these types of resources. However, these companies have helped local talent grow and have helped teach them corporate rules, which is something that I think is very important, and it's not being taught in schools. So in schools, you would learn your maths and your I don't know what subject you take, C# and Python and a couple of coding languages, right? You are very good at it, but then you don't really know
the application.
You don't really know how people work across teams in a multinational company. And I think this experience is very good for people to understand how things work and how a team works together to get results done. I mean, Bogdan can tell you more. They had at the bank, they had a very, very large project end of last year. We were a small part of that project where they tried to keep the lights on within their bank and a bank they acquired, merging all these systems while serving the customers without a single glitch. And it was something that was not really, really visible to the customers. But they tried to make sure that their teams deliver a project without any glitches.
Nice.
Everything was in production, right? So it was, I mean, there was a very high pressure on the teams, and it was a good thing that the teams were responsible enough to understand the impact of such a project and to make sure that everything runs smoothly.
So Bogdan, tell us about this amazing project and your experience with tech talent within the bank then.
Yes, so for last year, we have been taking, let's say, these two banks, a retail bank and a corporate bank, and have to merge from the operation perspective. And it was a very tight project because we have to do it in, I think, less than 10 months.
Yeah.
So for that, I have to say that I'm quite happy that we had a good result in terms of this merger of these two banks, which were very differently from the operational part, because, like I've said, it's a retail and a corporate bank, and right now we are an universal bank offering both type of services for the retail customers and also for the corporate customers. But I think this is not the main topic, and we are considering, let's say, that the talented people which are here in Romania, and we can together develop. And I think for the listeners, it's quite good to understand that the people here are investing quite a lot in the IT. And they are very open to learn and to develop their career in the site. And I think it's very important, like Ioana have said, the development that the companies coming here are doing for the existing people, for the existing let's say developers or IT people, IT related people involved in their operation. And I think with the right mindset, everyone can come here and find the people which will be able to deliver their projects. But they have to have a strategy and to have, let's say, an open-minded to make them understand how the things can be done in their operation, in order for the IT staff in Romania to understand how they can deliver those requests. So from this perspective, I have to say the percentage it's very high of the people which are involved in the IT services. It's true that we have to grow in the skills, like you wanna have said. There are particular type of skills that we are not covering very well, but I think with the right mindset of the companies which are thinking to come here and look for the talented people here, I think they can develop also those type of skills, because we are very let's say mathematical type of thinking.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's I don't know if it's a myth or not, but especially when we think about East European countries, we all know that you have very strong technical skills, mathematical mindset. So definitely, it's quite a huge opportunity there. So
it's a partnership. You have to think like a partnership, because you have also to develop the people which are actually in your team. And it will be a win-win situation for both sides.
Yeah, I think, we are all complaining about the scarcity of talent, but probably we need to reconsider also the way we build up our organizations and somehow try to train better the people that already have some skills within the company, perhaps. Because I see so many companies saying, okay, I cannot find talent. Okay, maybe let's try to rebuild the skills within your current team. I don't know. It's my 2 cents.
Something that we did internally, because we were looking for someone to fill a certain position with financial spin, and we could not find that type of person. And then I said, well, why don't we try the very nice lady who currently is our receptionist and had a little bit of experience, not what we were looking for, but she's willing to learn. She does a fantastic job, right?
Nice.
She did learn. It was a terrible year for her and her family, where she did learn and then learn some more. But, enthusiasm matters. And if you take the time to show people that you care about their growth, they are doing the return.
Yeah, I think this is really, really key. And it's really nice to hear that from an entrepreneur, Ioana. It's really good. So, guys, we almost reached the end of this episode, but I have one very last question for both of you. So if you could share with our audience where people can talk to you if they want more information about what you're doing and your project, please share it with us.
Well, I'm easy to find on, I would say Twitter is the easiest. That's Ioana Guiman, and one word, or LinkedIn, or at Allevo.ro is our website. Very happy to speak with anybody.
Nice. Bogdan.
For me, it's very easy. Bogdan at innovx.eu. I think this is the first choice, and also on LinkedIn. I think it's very important.
Perfect. So our amazing Renata will put everything in the description of the episode. So we are sure people reach out to you if they need more information on your project and what you're doing. So we reached the end of this episode, and I really want to thank you both, Ioana and Bogdan. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you for the
invitation. Yes, thank you for the invitation, and hope that we are hearing from your side also.
Yeah, I discovered a lot of things about Romania, so it was super interesting for me, and I'm sure also for the audience. So of course,
forward to the day when you come visit.
Yeah, definitely I should. I'm not even that far, so I know it's there are a lot of Italians. Yeah, exactly. That would be great. So thank you very much also to our audience for joining this Zoom in episode. Always remember to follow Breaking Banks Europe on all streaming platforms and social media. I'm Francesca Liverti, and see you all next week.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Banks Europe, a Provoke Media podcast in cooperation with FinTech Stage. Don't forget to tweet us out, shout out, or post to the team at eximbank.ro on Twitter. If there's something or someone you'd like to hear on our cast, let us know. See you next week on Breaking Banks Europe.